Maris had always believed that her life would be invisible. Working at the edge of the village as a healer's apprentice, she rarely ventured beyond her small cottage, content to keep to herself and her herbs. People often overlooked her. That was just the way she liked it, until the day he touched her. The Alpha King of the Northern Packs, Arian, had appeared in her village unexpectedly, his presence like a storm in the otherwise quiet square. The men whispered, women hurried their children indoors, and Maris froze mid-step, hand brushing over the basket of herbs she carried. He was impossible to ignore. Tall, broad, with eyes like molten amber that seemed to pierce straight into her soul, Arian moved with an authority that made the air itself tense. Rumors of his strength, his ruthlessness, and his uncanny ability to control even the most savage beasts had reached even the quiet corners of her life. And yet, there he was, standing only a few feet away from her, the scent of him, earth, leather, and something primal, filling her senses. She tried to step back, but her feet betrayed her. "Maris," he said, voice low and commanding. The sound rolled over her like distant thunder. "Do you remember me?" Her heart stuttered. I don't." "Yes, you do." His eyes softened slightly, though the intensity never left them. "You remember the night I touched you?" Maris's breath caught. That night had been months ago, yet the memory was burned into her mind. She had been tending her late-night garden when a storm had raged across the forest. He had appeared suddenly, his presence overwhelming, his hand grazing hers as he helped her from under a fallen branch. A touch, light, fleeting, but enough to ignite something she had never understood. She began, but her words died in her throat. Arian stepped closer. The air thickened around him, the subtle dominance of an Alpha King pressing against her. "I warned you," he said quietly, "once, but now, you belong to me." The world seemed to tilt. Maris staggered back, the basket of herbs tipping over and spilling its contents across the cobblestones. Her hands trembled. "I don't belong to anyone," she said, but her voice was fragile even to her own ears. "You do," he said simply, "because the bond doesn't lie. That touch, our first meeting, was enough. I marked you then, whether you knew it or not." She felt a shiver crawl up her spine. The village seemed to fade, the people around her blurring into shadows. Only him remained, his eyes never leaving hers, and she realized that she could feel something strange, a pull, subtle but undeniable, tugging at her heart, her senses, her very being. What does it mean?" she whispered. "It means," Arian said, his voice low and certain, "that I will claim you, that no one else can, and no one else should. That you are mine." Maris shook her head, trying to fight the heat rising in her chest. I don't even know you. I didn't ask for this." "You did not ask," he admitted. "But you did not refuse either. The bond answers need, not consent. And my need is yours." A crowd had gathered now, murmuring behind them. Maris could hear whispers of awe, fear, and gossip, but it felt distant, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them. "Step back," she said, her voice firmer. "You can't." His hand rose, and before she could react, he touched her again, not threateningly, not violently, but intentionally, connecting with the bond that had begun the night he first grazed her hand. She gasped. Electricity, or something like it, shot through her veins, the air around her seeming to vibrate. "I warned you," he said softly. "Now I claim you. The Alpha King never forgets a mate, and he never releases one." Maris felt a strange sensation, fear, awe, and something else entirely. Her heart thudded erratically, and the bond hummed faintly, whispering in a language she did not understand but could somehow feel in her blood. "You can't just take me," she whispered. "I don't take," he said, his voice darkening slightly. "I claim, and once claimed. You will come to understand. You will come to obey. You will come to love." She shook her head, trembling. I don't belong to anyone." "You do," he repeated, softer now, almost tender. Because I felt it from the first moment I touched you. Because the bond chose you, and because I cannot let you go. Maris felt dizzy. She wanted to run, to hide, to scream, but the pull, the bond, was too strong. The first touch had left its mark, and the second had awakened it. She realized with dawning horror and a strange thrill that she could not resist him completely. Arian's gaze softened, and for the first time he smiled. It was not cruel but commanding, dangerous and intimate all at once. You have no idea how long I've waited for you, he murmured. Maris swallowed hard, trying to regain her voice. Why me? Why now? Because fate is patient, he said, stepping closer, and it never forgets its chosen. The crowd seemed to fall silent, the world narrowing to the space between them. Maris could feel her own heartbeat, feel the pull of the bond, feel a strange warmth spread through her veins. The touch had been brief, fleeting months ago, but its effects were eternal. Arian's hand hovered near hers, a promise and a warning. You will come with me, he said, or you will remain here, and the bond will not rest. It will pull at your soul until you are mine, willingly or not. I am patient, but not forever. Maris's mind spun. Her life, the quiet, invisible life she had cherished, was gone. The Alpha King had touched her once, and now he wanted her back. Her instinct screamed at her to run, but deep in her chest something deeper than fear stirred, something primal, something that recognized the bond and the inevitability of the claim. I don't, she whispered. You will, he said, because it is already done, because the bond chooses, not you, and because I choose you. Her knees felt weak. Her vision blurred slightly as the bond's hum grew stronger. For a fleeting moment, she realized that resistance was not just futile, it was impossible. The first touch had marked her, the second had awakened her. And now, whether she liked it or not, the Alpha King wanted her back. Maris stared at him, heart pounding, the world narrowing to the intensity of his gaze, the pull of the bond, and the inevitable truth. Her life would never be hers again. Arian's golden eyes softened for a fraction, then hardened again. Tonight, you will understand, he said. Tonight, you will learn what it means to be mine, and there is no turning back. Maris's hand twitched involuntarily toward his. She resisted. And yet, the bond hummed louder, a whisper in her blood that told her she was already his. She had no idea what awaited her. But one thing was certain. The Alpha King would not be denied, and she was already caught. Maris did not go with him that day. That was the lie she told herself as she fled the village square, heart pounding, ears ringing with the echo of his voice. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. The weight of his gaze followed her all the way to her cottage, pressing against her spine like an invisible hand. The door slammed shut behind her. She braced herself against it, breath ragged, palms slick with sweat. This isn't real, she whispered. It can't be. But her body betrayed her. Her skin still tingled where he had touched her. Heat OLED low in her chest, spreading outward in slow, deliberate waves. And beneath it all, the pull, subtle, constant, unmistakable, like a thread tied to her heart and stretched tight in the direction of the northern forests. She slid to the floor. That night she dreamed of him, not his face at first, but his presence, the sense of being watched, protected, claimed. She stood in a moonlit clearing, the air heavy with pine and smoke, her pulse racing as footsteps approached behind her. You ran, his voice murmured, close to her ear. She turned and woke with a gasp. Her bed was soaked with sweat. Her heart thundered painfully in her chest. And the pull was stronger now, no longer ignorable. It ached. By the third day, Maris could no longer eat. Food tasted like ash. Sleep came in broken fragments. filled with flashes of gold eyes and strong hands and a voice that echoed inside her mind. "Come back." She pressed her fists to her temples. "Stop it." But the bond didn't listen. When she stepped outside, the world felt wrong, duller, muted, as though something essential had been taken from it. Even the forest she had loved since childhood felt distant, restless, like it was waiting for her to do something she refused to name. "You look ill," the village healer said, studying her carefully. "Have you been near the northern woods?" Maris flinched. "No." The healer's gaze sharpened. "Then something has claimed your scent." Maris froze. "Claimed?" she whispered. The healer's expression darkened. "Child, tell me you didn't cross paths with the Alpha King." Maris said nothing. That was answer enough. "He touched you," the healer said softly, almost reverently. "Didn't he?" Maris swallowed. "Once." The healer closed her eyes. "That is enough." Fear surged. "You knew." "Everyone knows," the healer replied. "The Alpha King's touch is not casual. It binds, sometimes slowly, sometimes instantly. And once the bond begins, it does not stop. I didn't agree to it," Maris said fiercely. "No," the healer said gently, "but neither did your blood refuse it." Maris recoiled. "I'm not a wolf. I'm not like him." The healer sighed. "The bond does not require you to be. It requires compatibility, fate, power, and something in you answered him." Maris turned away, shaking. "There has to be a way to break it." "There isn't," the healer said quietly. "Only ways to endure it." That evening, the pull became unbearable. It yanked at her chest with every heartbeat, a relentless summons that made her stagger as she tried to walk. She collapsed in the grass outside her cottage, clutching her chest, gasping. "Please," she whispered, "just stop." The forest answered instead. A presence swept through the trees, massive, controlled, unmistakable. Maris didn't need to see him to know he was there. Arian stepped into the clearing like a shadow given form. "You are suffering," he said, his voice low and controlled. Tears streamed down her face. "You did this to me." "Yes," he said. "And aren't you?" She scrambled back, panic rising. "I told you to stay away. You ran," he said calmly. "You did not sever the bond. You only weakened yourself. You don't get to decide my life," she cried. His eyes darkened. "No, fate did. I am only answering it." He approached slowly, deliberately, as though afraid sudden movement might break her. "You are untrained," he said, "unprotected. The bond is feeding without guidance. That pain you feel will grow." She shook her head violently. "I'd rather suffer than belong to you." Something flickered in his eyes. Anger, yes, but also something else. Restraint. "I do not want your suffering," he said. "I want your survival. I don't want you," she whispered. He stopped a few steps away. "That is a lie you tell your fear." Her breath hitched. "I have not claimed you fully," he continued. "I touched you once, then again, enough to awaken the bond, but not enough to stabilize it." Her eyes widened. "Stabilize?" "Yes," he said, "until you accept my presence, or until I complete the claim, the bond will tear at you." Slowly, terror bloomed. "So this is blackmail?" "No," he said. "This is biology, magic, fate. Call it what you will." He knelt in front of her, bringing himself level with her eyes. "I will not force you," he said quietly, "but I will not abandon you to a bond you cannot survive alone." His hand hovered inches from hers. The pull screamed. "Don't," she whispered. "If I touch you now," he said, "the pain will stop. Temporarily. But it will deepen the bond." Her hands trembled. "I don't want to be owned." His gaze softened, dangerously so. "Then don't think of it as ownership. Think of it as connection." She laughed weakly. "You're very good at this." "I have had centuries to learn what frightens humans," he replied, "and what comforts them." Her breath stuttered as his fingers brushed her wrist. The relief was immediate. The pain dulled, the ache eased. Warmth spread through her chest like a balm. She sagged forward with a sob, her body betraying her even as her mind screamed protest. He caught her easily, steadying her. "There," he murmured. "Breathe." She hated herself for the way her body leaned into his touch. "You see," he said softly. "You do not weaken with me, you stabilize." She pulled back, eyes blazing with tears. "This doesn't mean I accept you." "No," he agreed. "It means you are alive." He stood, offering his hand. "Come with me," he said. "Learn what this bond is. Learn how to live with it. Or remain here and let it hollow you out." She stared at his hand. The Alpha King, the bond, the pull. Her choice was no choice at all, but still. She hesitated, because accepting his hand meant accepting that her life, her quiet, invisible life, was truly gone, and that the man who touched her once was no longer willing to let her go. Maris took his hand. The moment her fingers closed around Ariane's, the bond surged, not painfully this time, but with a fierce grounding heat that spread through her limbs. Her knees weakened and she swayed, unprepared for the intensity of it. Ariane tightened his grip instantly. "I've got you," he said, steady and certain. She hated how much relief those words brought. The forest seemed to breathe as they crossed its threshold, shadows shifting, the air thick with power. With every step deeper into the woods, Maris felt something inside her align, as though she were walking toward a place her body had always known, even if her mind refused to accept it. "This doesn't mean I trust you," she said quietly. "I don't need your trust yet," Ariane replied. "Only your presence." That unsettled her more than a demand would have. They reached the Alpha King's territory by nightfall. Massive stone structures rose from the earth like extensions of the mountain itself, torches lining the paths, their flames bending subtly as Ariane passed. Wolves, real wolves, enormous and alert, watched from the shadows, eyes glowing faintly. Maris stiffened. "They won't hurt you," Ariane said. "They're watching me," she whispered. "Yes," he replied. "They're curious. That's not comforting." A corner of his mouth twitched. "You'll learn." Inside the stronghold, everything felt too large. Ceilings high enough to swallow sound, corridors wide enough for beasts to run through. Wolves shifted into human form as they approached, bowing their heads to Ariane. And then their eyes found her. Surprise, suspicion, hunger. "She's human," someone murmured. "No," another corrected. "D. She's bonded." The word echoed in Maris's chest. Ariane led her to a private chamber, warmer than the rest of the fortress, lit with firelight and heavy with his scent. "You'll stay here," he said. "No one enters without my permission." "I'm a prisoner then," she said flatly. "No," he replied. "You are protected by you." "Yes." She crossed her arms. "That's the problem." He regarded her carefully. "You are safer here than anywhere else. And if I try to leave?" His jaw tightened. "The bond will stop you long before I do." Her stomach dropped. "So I really don't have a choice." "You have many choices," he said quietly. "Just not that one." The next morning, Maris woke before dawn, her senses buzzing. She could hear things, footsteps far below, the crackle of distant fires, even the rhythmic breathing of wolves outside her chamber. It was overwhelming and exhilarating and terrifying all at once. She stumbled to the window. The view stole her breath. Mountains stretched endlessly, forest rolling beneath them like a living sea. Wolves ran along the paths below, their movements fluid and powerful. "This is their world," she whispered, and somehow, now hers too. Training began sooner than she expected. Not combat, control. A silver-haired woman named Althea introduced herself as the Alpha King's second. Her gaze was sharp, assessing. "She's fragile," Althea said bluntly. She's untrained, Arian corrected. And human, Althea added. For now, he said. Maris bristled. I am standing right here. Althea studied her. Good. Then listen. The bond amplifies what's already inside you. Fear will make you weak. Resistance will make you break. And obedience? Maris shot back. Althea smiled thinly. That depends on who you're obeying. The first lesson nearly broke her. Meditation, grounding, learning to recognize the bond without letting it consume her. When she failed, when panic spiked, the bond retaliated, pain lancing through her chest until she cried out. Arian was there every time. He never touched her unless she asked. That restraint confused her more than force would have. You're doing this on purpose, she accused during a break, breathless and shaking. Yes, he admitted, because if I make this easy, you'll never understand the danger. She glared at him. You enjoy this? No, he said quietly. I endure it. Not everyone was patient. On the third night, Maris wandered the halls, unable to sleep. The pull guided her, always the pull, down a dim corridor she hadn't seen before. That was when she heard voices. She's a liability, a man snarled. The Alpha King is distracted. She's weak, another agreed. Human blood. She'll get him killed. Maris froze. We should end it before the bond deepens. Her heart slammed violently against her ribs. She turned to run, and slammed straight into a solid chest. Arian. His eyes flicked past her, instantly calculating. The air around him changed, pressure dropping like the calm before a storm. I'll repeat what you just said, he commanded, stepping around her. The men stiffened. Alpha. Repeat it, Arian growled. One of them shifted nervously. We only meant... The ground shook. Arian's power surged outward, raw and terrifying. Wolves in the distance howled in response. She is under my protection, he said coldly. She is bonded to me, and anyone who speaks of ending her life will answer to me. Silence fell like a blade. Maris stood frozen, heart racing. You are dismissed, Arian said. They fled. When they were alone, Arian turned to her, fury giving way to something darker. You should not be wandering alone, he said. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't think. That is exactly the problem, he snapped. Then he exhaled sharply, forcing himself to calm. This is not a court. This is a pack. Weakness is noticed. Her voice shook. They want me dead. Yes, he said, and others will want to claim you, or use you, she swallowed. Because of you. No, he corrected. Because of what you are becoming. That night, the bond flared violently. Maris woke screaming, pain ripping through her chest as heat and fear collided. The door burst open, and Arian was there instantly, gathering her into his arms. Easy, he murmured, pressing her head to his chest. I've got you, she sobbed, clutching him despite herself. I don't want to be weak, she cried. You aren't, he said fiercely. You're untrained. There is a difference. She looked up at him, tears streaking. Gee, her face. Why do you care so much? His jaw tightened. Because I touched you once, he said quietly. And fate answered. And now, losing you would destroy more than my crown. Her breath caught. The bond hummed, deep and steady, wrapping around her fear like a promise. And for the first time, Maris wondered, not without dread, but not without hope either, whether the Alpha King wanted her back, not to own her, but because he needed her as much as she was beginning to need him. The sun had barely risen when the alarm echoed through the stronghold. Wolves barked, claws scraping against stone, their forms flickering between human and beast. Maris bolted upright in her chamber, heart hammering. The bond thrummed violently, dragging her toward the chaos. She rushed to the window just as Arian appeared at the balcony edge, golden eyes flaring like molten fire. His presence alone seemed to command the pack into order, yet the tension in the air was undeniable. Something's wrong, he said, voice low but carrying authority. Enemies have breached the outskirts, and they are not alone. Maris swallowed hard, fear and adrenaline mixing in a tight knot in her chest. What? What do you mean? Who are they? Hunters? Arian replied. And worse, rogue Lycans who seek to claim the Alpha's mate for themselves. They know you are bonded, and they will kill anyone who stands in their way. The bond surged again more intensely than ever. Maris doubled over, clutching her chest as a flash of raw energy coursed through her veins. Panic threatened to consume her, but instinct pulled her forward, toward him, toward the fight, toward what she didn't yet understand about herself. By the time they reached the main courtyard, the attackers were already engaged with the pack. Wolves leapt and landed with terrifying precision, claws and fangs tearing through the shadows. Arian moved like a storm unleashed, power radiating from him in waves, every strike deliberate, every motion lethal. "Stay close," he commanded. Maris did, though her fear was nearly unbearable. The bond hummed violently now, feeding both her terror and her strength. Heat pooled in her chest, coursing down her arms and legs. Her hands twitched, trembling with a force she did not yet control. And then it happened. An enormous Lycan lunged at her, a rogue claiming her as his prize. Maris barely had time to react. Instinct took over. She raised her hands, and energy shot outward, colliding with the Lycan like a living shield. It screamed, staggering back. The pack froze, eyes wide, then moved again with renewed vigor. Arian's eyes found hers. "You're doing it," he roared. "You're using the bond." Maris gasped. She was using it. She had no conscious control, but the bond guided her movements, channeled her fear into force, her panic into precision. Every strike, every push of energy, echoed his strength as if they were one being. The rogue Lycan attempted another attack. Maris met it with a blast of raw power, rowing the creature to the ground. Her chest burned, sweat pouring down her face. But the bond hummed steady now, no longer painful, only commanding. The battle raged for hours, the pack working as one. Maris discovered instincts she didn't know she had, anticipating movements, reading intentions, wielding energy like a weapon. And through it all, Arian stayed by her side, correcting, guiding, protecting, yet never taking control from her. "You are stronger than I imagined," he said during a brief pause. Sweat and grime streaked his face, yet his gaze was unwavering. "The bond awakens what is hidden, but it cannot replace your will. That you survived, that you fought, that is entirely yours." Maris's breath came in short gasps. I can't believe this is happening. I feel powerful and terrified." "Good," he said. "Both are necessary. The bond does not erase fear. It tempers it. It does not erase doubt. It channels it. You must learn to harness it fully." Her chest ached, but the bond pulsed gently now, a reminder that she was not alone, that she never would be. Night fell, and the attackers had been driven back, retreating into the forest. The pack gathered in the courtyard, panting, wounds being tended, eyes flicking to Maris with a mixture of awe and respect. She had stood beside the Alpha King, had fought, had survived. Arian approached her, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "Do you understand now?" he asked softly. "The bond, it is not punishment. It is protection. It is power, and it is connection." Maris shivered, her body still humming with residual energy. "I think I'm beginning to understand," she admitted. "But what if I can't control it next time?" "You will," he said simply, "because I will be here, and because you are learning. You are not just a mate, you are a warrior, and the bond makes us unstoppable together." She looked at him, chest heaving. "I never asked for this." "No," he said, brushing his thumb over her cheek. "But fate did, and the bond answered it." Days passed. The pack grew accustomed to her presence in ways she hadn't expected. Wolves, once suspicious, now watched her with wary respect. She trained constantly, honing her energy, learning to control the force that now surged through her. Each time she touched the bond, each time she and Arian moved together, Her power grew, matched only by her understanding of her place at his side. Yet danger remained. Rumors reached them of rival alphas, enemies who saw her as a key to destabilizing Arian's rule. Rogue hunters moved in the shadows, whispering threats, testing the boundaries of the Alpha King's territory. Every night, the bond pulled stronger, warning, guiding, demanding attention. One night, Maris woke screaming as she sensed an intruder, an alpha rival attempting to claim her while Arian slept. She rose instinctively, following the pull of the bond through the darkness. Energy surged through her, invisible but lethal, and the intruder fled before Ven reached the chamber. Arian found her moments later, chest rising and falling rapidly. "You are stronger than you know," he murmured, brushing his hand over her arm. "And stronger than they realize. I feel different," she whispered. "The bond, it's not just with you, it's with everything. The pack, the forest, me." "Good," he said. "You are awakening, and awakening is dangerous but necessary. You cannot be passive. Not if you survive, and not if you belong to me." Her heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but from understanding. She belonged to him, yes, but she also belonged to herself, to her power, to the bond they shared. By the time dawn broke, Maris had transformed. She was no longer the frightened, invisible girl from the village. She was a force of nature, a mate of the Alpha King, fully awakening to the bond that pulsed through her veins. She had survived attack, harnessed power, and gained understanding. And Arian? He watched her with a pride tempered by desire, caution, and awe. "You are mine," he said softly. "Yes," she whispered, but her voice held steel. "And I am yours, but I am me as well. That is the bond." Arian's hand brushed hers. Exactly. The bond hummed steady, connecting them in ways neither fully understood, but both trusted completely. And somewhere in the forest, the shadows watched, waiting for the next challenge. But Maris knew one thing: she was ready. And together they were unstoppable. The night the rival Alpha came, the bond woke Maris before fear could. She sat upright in bed, breath steady, senses flaring outward like ripples in water. The stronghold slept, but the forest did not. Something moved beyond the borders, heavy with intent, sharp with hunger. "He's here," she whispered. The door opened instantly. Arian stood there already dressed for battle, golden eyes blazing. "You felt him too?" "Yes," she said, swinging her legs over the bed. There was no panic in her now, only clarity. "He's not testing us. He's coming to take." Arian studied her for a long moment. "Then tonight, you will decide who you are." The rival Alpha announced himself at the edge of the territory, stepping into moonlight with deliberate arrogance. He was massive, scarred, his power coiled tight and dangerous. "Arian," he called. "You hide behind walls and laws while your mate grows wild. Hand her over, and I will spare your pack." Maris felt the pack tense behind them, dozens of eyes watching her. Arian growled, low and lethal. "You speak of what you do not understand." The rival Alpha's gaze slid to Maris, sharp and assessing. "Human-born," he sneered. "Unclaimed properly. Weak," the bond roared. Maris stepped forward before Arian could stop her. "No," she said calmly. "Unfinished." The rival Alpha laughed. "You think yourself powerful because the Alpha King touched you. You are borrowed strength." She met his gaze without flinching. "Then come take it." Gasps rippled through the pack. Arian's voice cut through the tension. "Maris, I need to do this," she said softly, without looking back. "For myself, and for the bond." The rival Alpha lunged. Maris didn't move, not until the last possible second. The world sharpened, slowed. She felt the bond stretch between her and Arian, not pulling her back, but steadying her. She raised her hands not in fear, but in command. Power surged, not wild, not explosive, but precise. The rival Alpha slammed into an invisible wall and was thrown backward, skidding across stone. He roared in fury, shifting mid-motion, claws tearing into the ground as he launched again. This time, Maris met him halfway. She didn't strike with brute force. She redirected, using the bond, the land, the rhythm of the pack itself. Energy flared around her like a living mantle, silver and gold intertwined. "You are not claiming me," she said clearly. "You are proving you never could." The Alpha staggered, stunned. "She is not human," someone whispered behind them. "No," Althea said, voice reverent. "She is bonded." The rival Alpha snarled and reached for her mind, and Alpha's dominance meant to crush resistance. Maris felt it hit, and smiled. "You're too late," she said. The bond answered. Arian stepped beside her, power surging outward, not to overpower her, but to join her. Their energies aligned, seamless, unstoppable. "You touch what is mine," Arian said coldly, "and you answer to both of us." Together they struck. The rival Alpha was thrown to his knees, the ground cracking beneath him. He gasped. Ed, power shattered, dominance stripped away like a broken crown. Maris walked forward, stopping just out of his reach. "This ends now," she said. "Leave, and if you return it will not be as a challenger, but as a warning to others." The Alpha looked up at her, awe and fear battling in his eyes. "You chose him," he rasped. Maris shook her head. "I chose myself. He stood with me." The rival Alpha fled. Silence fell. Then, one by one, the pack bowed. Not to Arian. To her, Maris's breath caught. You didn't command it," Althea said. "You earned it." Arian turned to her, something raw and reverent in his expression. "You could have walked away tonight," he said quietly. "Claimed no one, ruled nothing." She met his gaze. "And you would have let me—" "Yes," he said without hesitation. She smiled softly. "That's why I stayed." Later, alone in the quiet of the stronghold, Maris stood at the balcony overlooking the forest. The bond hummed gently now, no longer demanding, no longer painful, balanced. Arian approached, stopping beside her but not touching. "You are not what fate expected," he said. She laughed quietly. "Neither are you." He turned to face her fully. "I touched you once, and the world shifted, but I will not claim you without your voice." Maris turned to him, heart steady. "Then listen." She stepped closer, placing her hand over his chest, feeling the bond settle fully, complete at last. "I am yours," she said. "Not because I was taken, not because I was bound, but because I choose you." His breath hitched. "And you," she continued, "are mine, not as a king, not as an Alpha, but as my equal." Arian sank to one knee. The pack watched from the shadows as their Alpha bowed, not in submission, but in devotion. "I accept," he said, "and I swear this bond will never cage you. It will only strengthen you." Maris reached for him, pulling him to his feet. Then she kissed him, not as a claimed mate, but as a woman who had claimed herself. The bond sealed, not with fire, not with force, but with trust. By dawn, the stronghold felt different. Lighter, stronger. Maris walked its halls not as a guest, not as a prisoner, but as a force the pack would follow. She trained, she learned, she ruled beside Arian, not beneath him. And when whispers spread across the lands, the Alpha King touched her once. Now she stands beside him, and no one can take her back. Maris only smiled, because the truth was simpler and far more dangerous. He had touched her once, but she had chosen him forever. More stories will keep coming, so please don't forget to like and subscribe.